Hi there, Rissa here. This is the recap video for the August 9th Words of Affirmation Date Night Couples Thai Massage Workshop in Portland, Oregon at the Everett House Healing Center. This is my sister Kristen, and we're gonna go through a quick recap of the techniques that we covered last Thursday in the workshop. We had a request for some hip work, so we're gonna start out with some range of motion. So kneel next to your partner's leg, the leg they want you to work on. Scoop underneath the ankle and the knee, and then rise up to a lifted kneeling position and knee walk closer to their hip. Take the leg with you. Bring their outer shin to your belly, and then circle your whole base of support around, introducing some gentle range of motion to start out. Once the person has let go a little bit, then you're gonna take your foot that's closer to their feet and step it over to the other side. So I don't know if you can see what's going on here, but my left foot is on the other side of her body. From here, I'm gonna cross her knee tightly over my thigh and drop my hips down. I'm kind of sitting back on the heel. From here, I'm gonna hook this foot around to this side of her body. Okay, so the heel hooks the outer glute and the ball of the foot stays down. From here, I'm gonna bring my upper body out to the side, hands down, and rock forward and backward. Really try and bring your heel back against their body. Is this okay? Yeah. So we're gonna rock into it and out of it. This is what's happening here. So here's her leg, here's my leg. It's kind of like a jujitsu-ish move, like gentle jujitsu. Knees coming up and out to the side. All right. So now I'm gonna drop my hips back, unhook my legs slowly, rise up to step my own foot back, and then straight away go into planting her foot. All right? Drive pressure downward from the hand that's on the knees so you can adjust your own body. I'm gonna bring my body to face her. My foot that's closer to her foot plants on top of the toe knuckles. I'm gonna try and move here so you can see what's going on. I'm gonna bring my hip in line with her hip, and this knee, the heel is to the inside. So I'm not sitting on my heel. It's kind of like a cross-legged position, but just with one leg. I'm gonna push with my hand. You see how her hip comes up? Push with my hand, slide my knee underneath, and then pull her knee back, either with my hand or hook it and hug it with my elbow. It looks a little something like this from behind. Push, slide, and then pull. We're gonna do that up and down the glute. Make sure you're in between the outer hip bone and the sacrum. So we don't want to leverage pressure directly on the bone. We want the meaty part of the tissue, the glutes. This is kind of a stretch for the inner thigh as well. Let's turn your body this way. Okay, maybe you can see better like this. Pushing the knee in, adjusting my knee position, and then pulling her back. See how I can hook my elbow? Up and down. And remember that once the tissue's warmed up, and if you want to change the angle to bring her hips a little more on top, you hug with one arm, and then the hand that's closer to her face, reach across toward her opposite hip, and then lean your whole body back to kind of lift her hips up onto your knee. Changes the angle of pressure. To remove yourself from the situation, guide the knee forward, slide your own knee out, and then allow her knee to open up into tree pose. From here, lift your hips up, get your center of gravity over the knee, and gently sink down Just a few times, palm on top of palm, right at the inner knee. It's okay if the other hip lifts up. We're not using a whole lot of pressure here. A great thing about Thai massage is the after effects are the sum of all of the cumulative techniques. Okay, so we're not trying for a lot of pressure. To remove her from tree pose, you slide the foot forward until the leg straightens and then give a gentle jostle. Turn this way again. And now we're gonna bring her up to a seated position so we can work on the back and work our way up to the neck and shoulders. Okay. So standing between the ankles, hook the outer ankles with your hands, stand up, walk forward, introduce a bend into the knees with your own knees, and push forward with your hands as well. From here, cross the ankles, slide her heels down toward her bum, walk forward so you can rest the tops of her feet on your shins, and not the bony part of your shins, the muscle part of your shins. Gently guide the knees open if they are squeezed tightly together, and see how the person receiving it's like they're sitting cross-legged, and that's where we're headed. If the person receiving has disc herniations in the lumbar spine, then you're going to want them to extend the spine like a back bend and simply grab onto their hands and pull them straight up to a seated position. You're going to skip this next technique. But for those of us without that special consideration, then we're going to pull up 3 times and then come to a seat. So reach forward, fireman's grip, my palms face up. Both of us take a deep breath in. Exhale, stand up. Kristen, you can tuck your chin towards your chest if it feels okay. See how my shoulders are back? Inhale, slowly release down, hips move back to counterbalance. Exhale, forward. One more time, inhale, roll down. Exhale, forward. My knees kind of push down as well. And now I simply walk back, and voila, she's seated. Crawl your hands forward and come into a gentle seated position. You can let your chin tuck. So again, here we're not using a lot of force. That's something I noticed in class. This doesn't need to be super strong. Kneel behind your partner. Plant one foot outside their thighs, so you're framing your work. Fingers point outward, heel of hand really close to the hip. Shoulders stack over wrists. Keep your spine straight, your arms straight. Just guide that energy down. Lean back to remove pressure, second hand position at the mid thighs. Yeah, so if you're receiving, sometimes you gotta adjust your seat. And same thing, we get a little bit gentler as we move out toward the knee. So second position, lean back to remove pressure. Third hand position close to the knee. Lean back to remove pressure. Second hand position, mid-thigh. Lean back to remove pressure. First hand position, right up next to the hips. You can use stronger pressure there. We jump up to the low back. I'm going to switch my lunge so you can see. Fingers point down, you ground just above the pelvis. So we're right at the low back. One hand stays to root. The other fingers turn up and out at a diagonal angle. So instead of pushing down, think about your hands moving apart from one another. Okay, again, does not need to be forceful. First hand position at the low back. Second at the mid back. Third at the upper back, just inside the shoulder blade. Second hand position, mid back. First hand position, low back. Turn both sets of fingers down to ground. And now do the other side. Fingers turn out. 1, 2, 3, 2, and 1. Person receiving, you can crawl your hands in and rise up to a lifted seated position. Person giving, turn your stance 90 degrees away from your partner. So both my sets of toes are turned away from her, my hips as well. This way she can lean her whole body back against my leg, and my leg is right up against her spine. Interlace your fingers and bring your hands behind your head. Right. Assist in closing the elbows in. Open elbows up, make sure your stance is wide enough. And then lean back, relax around your shoulders and armpits. Good. Close elbows in. Open elbows up. Lean back and relax. One more time. And relax arms down wherever you're most comfortable. Sit up tall. Now turn to face your partner. Okay, you can really see this from the side. If I'm too close, then I'm gonna push into her and she's gonna have to fight me just to stand up straight. And if I'm too far away, then I'm not really providing any support and I'm trying to get my upper body over my work. So there's a Goldilocks zone here. Toes and knees point out at about 45 degrees. My inner knee just gently touches the back of her shoulders. I'm not gonna push my knees forward really ever. It's my hips that move back so my shoulders can stack over my wrists and I can guide downward pressure onto the shoulders, okay? So we're not spreading the thumbs back behind. We're keeping the thumbs in the same direction as the rest of the fingers. And after you do a few passes in and out, remember you can turn the fingers back behind you. It gives a different kind of sensation. It really helps the shoulders roll back and down onto the back. Now we're gonna do the contraction stretch cycles. So hands down on your partner's shoulders. Kristen, shrug up into my hands. Shrug, 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 shrug. More on the left. And relax down. Now guide downward pressure when she relaxes. Hands move out slightly. Shrug, 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 shrug. And relax. Good. One more time. Shrug, 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 shrug. And relax. Do that as many times as you like. What we're doing is resetting the resting muscle length of the fibers. So we're kind of tricking the muscles there. It's called PNF or MET and different practices. Kristen, would you turn toward the window? We didn't get to cover this in class, but I wanted to show you just so you can work a little more specifically on the shoulder and neck. So kneel behind your partner, one foot is planted, drape their arm over your leg. And if you've got a height discrepancy, you can slide your leg forward more so that their shoulder isn't up in their ear like that. But we've got a pretty good ratio, so I can just plant my foot pretty gently here. And I guide her head to the side. And from here, I'm gonna use my forearm, not my elbow, not my wrist, a little bit closer to the elbow. Other hand grounds on her opposite shoulder. I'm gonna lean forward to sink pressure down and remove. Personally, I don't like to roll my forearm. I find it's just not very efficient use of force. I just like to lock and sink. Lock and sink. If you would like to help make it more dynamic, you can bring other hand to the head and guide the chin down or up or head to the side while you maintain that pressure. Yeah. Kristen's got a lot going on here, like most of us do. And you can do that on both sides. That will be all till next week. I think next week we'll do a little bit more with the neck, so we can kind of just travel on up the body. Thank you for watching. Thanks, Kristen, for being my demo model, and more to come.